Okay, let's look at the difference between the male and female pelvises. They are different from each other, so if we were, let's say we were detectives and we found a partial skeleton and somebody had been missing and maybe we couldn't find the whole skeleton, but all we found was the pelvis region, we could pretty much predict whether it was a male or female by certain features. So let's look at those features. First of all, in our structure list here, we know male pelvises are heavier, female pelvises are lighter. And the next thing says the pelvic opening is narrower and heart-shaped versus the female, the pelvic opening is wider and oval. So let's look and see what we mean by that. So here, this pelvic opening right through here is kind of heart-shaped, if you look at this area, versus this is more oval-shaped. And obviously the major reason why the female pelvis is different is because of being able to have a baby develop and also the birthing process. Okay, this is the pubic arch angle is less than 90 degrees. And what this should say is the pubic arch angle is greater than 90 degrees. Here's the pubic arch area right through here, so the male is less than 90 degrees. Here's the pubic arch area here for the female is more than 90 degrees. Okay, the male pelvis tends to be narrower overall, where the female pelvis is wider overall. And then the acetabulum faces laterally, where in the female the acetabulum is lateral, but it's a little bit more in the front or anterior. Okay, so from here, even going from anterior superior iliac spine to anterior iliac spine, this area that they're calling the false pelvis is wider in females than it is in males. And then this acetabulum here and here is more lateral on the males, but it's lateral and also a little bit more in the anterior side. So there's a different angle to how the femur attaches in here on females than on males. Okay, this is the sacrum and the coccyx angled more posteriorly. Okay, so looking at that, there's more curvature here where the coccyx actually points inward some, whereas this is actually more distance in this region here from, say, this angle here to the actual sacrum. So that's actually not as curved. It's a little bit straighter and further out than this. I know that's kind of hard to see from a two-dimensional picture, but just keep in mind everything about this is about more room for the fetal development and for the birthing process, where here we don't have to worry about that, so there's more conservation of space in here. Okay, the next bone we want to look at is the femur, the long, large upper leg bone. We're going to look at the head of the femur, the neck of the femur, the greater and lesser trochanter of the femur. Okay, so here's the femur right here, and the head, of course, is the portion that, just like we had a head on the humerus, the head is the ball of a ball and socket joint, and it's fitting into the acetabulum, the acid cup socket that's on the oscoxal bones here. Here below the head is a neck, and then I've got this big attachment place in the superior perspective, and this attachment place, pretty big attachment place, also on the inferior perspective. So this is the lesser trochanter. The superior one is the greater trochanter. Then this is the neck. This is the head. Okay, the patella is the knee bone. It says here it's held in place by ligaments. So we're going to look at the patellar ligament, the ACL or anterior cruciate ligament, and we're going to look at the posterior cruciate ligament. Okay, so we see the patella right here, and of course it's at the lower portion. This is the femur up through here. Here's the tibia. This is the fibula. So we see the patella, and it's kind of being held somewhat by the patellar ligament. So if we then look at this next, if we pull the patellar ligament down, and we actually pull the patella down, and we look at what's behind it, then we can see an ACL here, but we're going to look at it a little bit closer. Okay, again, looking at our ACL, here's our anterior cruciate ligament because it's crossing from the front to the back, and then we have our posterior cruciate ligament crossing from the back to the front. So because they're crossing each other, one starting in the front, moving to the back, one starting in the back, and then crossing under the other one. Then these two ligaments are actually helping tie your lower leg area to your upper leg area. And these are often things that are injured in sports injuries. You hear about them a lot. Okay, our large lower leg bone is called the tibia. Now please don't call this a fibia. There's no such thing as a fibia. There's a tibia and there is a fibula. So this is the large bone, this is the small bone. Okay, and so let's look at the tibia and the fibula and the tibial tuberosity. So again, my two lower leg bones, the big one is the tibia, this enlarged attachment area. Now this is not the patella, this is actually an enlargement on the tibia itself. Tibial tuberosity has a lot of muscles attaching to it. This is the fibula, it's on the lateral side, which is your outside portion, and it's a much smaller bone. Okay, so tibia, the large lower leg bone, fibula, the smaller but long skinny lower leg bone. Okay, finally then we have the bones of our ankle and foot. We had carpals as wrist bones. We have tarsals as bones of the ankle and foot region. So we've got the talus, which is the second largest tarsal bone, and it's what's going to connect to the tibia. Then we have the calcaneus, which is the heel bone. It's the largest of our tarsal bones. Then we have our phalanges. Just like we called our fingers phalanges, we can also call our toes phalanges. But whereas our thumb was called a pollex, our big toe is called a hallux. Our toes have 3 bones involved, but the big toe only has 2 bones involved. Then we also have the metatarsals, the bones beyond the tarsals that are in the fleshy part of the foot that connect to the actual toes. So again, here's the talus, what would connect to the tibia. Here's the heel bone, the calcaneus. Then of course you have the other tarsal bones. Then we actually have the metatarsals, and we named them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the big toe over. So that's the first metatarsal, second metatarsal, fifth metatarsal, and so forth. Then our pollex or big toe only has 2 bones in it, the proximal and distal phalange. Our other toes have a distal, middle, and proximal phalange, distal, middle, proximal, distal, middle, proximal, distal, middle, proximal phalange, and then you would affiliate that with which metatarsal. So again, if I were to say, what's this bone here? It'd be the middle phalange of the 1, 2, 3, 4th metatarsal. Okay, so this finishes up the bone list, but you need to be able to recognize these bones, whether it's on the pictures or whether it's on the bone model pictures that I also posted. So as you're looking at these, look at them on both. So you don't want to just get fixated on one particular picture or model or whatever, but you'd want to be able to identify it no matter what you looked at. So when you're learning any of these, you kind of say, well, what's around the parietal bone? You know, because the frontal bone's always going to be in front of it, and the temporal bone's always going to be below it. It doesn't matter what model, patient, picture, whatever I'm looking at, it's going to be in the same general location. So again, look at these different bones on the different pictures and that I've listed, not just the ones I showed on the videos, because I may test you on some of the other pictures also.